This operation was supposed to be easy. Get in, grab the important classified documents, and get out. But anyone in this line of work already knows, easy is just a word used by the guys upstairs not getting their hands dirty. Turns out, as always, they were wrong. To in what looked like an old bunker. My head throbbed as my eyes adjusted to the darkness, pierced by flashlights scattered around. As I turned the corner, I saw the dying light of a campfire. I wasn't alone. Was this person my savior or my captor? As I approached the campfire, I found a note with a single word: rest. I didn't have much of a choice. Where was I? What happened? My head pounded as I slumped in the corner and lost consciousness again. There were too many questions left unanswered. Who were these men? How did they know we'd be there? Who were they working for? What was their goal? Little did I know the true chaos and brutality that descended upon Tarkov. Now, stripped of weapons and equipment, left alone to die in this nest of vipers, all I can do is hope that help is really coming. So I've been a big fan of Escape from Tarkov since I started playing back in 2018, and like most Tarkov players, I would play on and off depending on the wipe and how late I jumped on the bandwagon. But there was something about version 14 released back in December of 2023 that really got me back into it. Part of it was Ground Zero, the brand new map with all new starter quests. Part of it was the recoil rework, which now I can actually shoot things. It's not so much a critique as it is a skill issue on my part. But I think what keeps bringing me back to Tarkov after every single wipe when you have to start over completely is the fact that it feels fresh and new. There's always new items, there's always new things to do. But sometimes to keep things especially fresh, I will do my own little challenges. I used to do a lot of zero to hero runs way back in the day where I would just get rid of everything in my stash and only have my secure container and a hatchet, and that was it. However, since you can't do that anymore, since it inflicts the cursed status on you, making all AI super aggressive towards you, I've come up with a new challenge, which is a little bit what this video series is about. Now I say a little bit because in true Metz fashion, once I come up with an idea, I come with 50 other ideas, and I try to do everything simultaneously. And so, Alive and Unwell is going to be part challenge video, part machinima, part exploration of Tarkov's lore, because actually, if you didn't know, Tarkov has really deep backstory, and I would like to explore that a little bit. Now if you're new to Tarkov, I'm also trying to formulate this as a new player friendly type of guide. Yeah, I might be telling stories and all of that, but I'm actually going to be following the progression of a new player, just starting all the way to level 15 when the flea market's unlocked and when the game becomes a completely different experience because you can actually buy the guns you want, buy the modifications you want for it, everything that you need. It's pretty much right there in the flea market. So what are the rules for this challenge? I have to reset my account completely and start out at level 1. Not only that, but I have to delete my entire inventory, not just sell it to the traders because that would affect reputation with them. So I have to start completely fresh. Nothing at all in my stash can remain aside from my secure container. To get new starting gear, I'm going to do 10 scav runs, but I can only do 10 scav runs, meaning if I survive only 5 times, then I guess I only get 5 scav runs worth of gear. Simulate building trust and a relationship with all of the traders. I can't actually buy anything from them or use any of their services until I do their starter quest. In Fence's case, I won't really do anything with him until I reach level 5, mostly because he doesn't really have any starter quests, and that's when dailies kick in. Now during this challenge, I am allowed to play with friends, but they can't give me anything aside from consumables that I might need just in that raid, like an extra bandage or an extra magazine. However, any items that I'm given from random players like friendly scavs, I'm free to keep. Again, this challenge is going to go until level 15. A second objective is seeing how much money I can make starting from nothing, as well as how far I can progress my hideout. If you want to try this challenge for yourself, I'll leave the rules down in the description below. And with that, let's see how I did with those first 10 scav runs. To start off the challenge, Chooch and Milkman accompanied me to my favorite map for scavving, Interchange. With joy in our hearts and spring in our step, we made our way to the food section on the north side of Goshen. While the shelves were picked clean, we were lucky enough to find some much-needed food and drink for my hungry PMC back at the Hideout. Packs laden with groceries, we headed to the front of the store where customer lockers lay unattended with the promise of forgotten valuables. We stumbled upon a golden chainlet that would fetch a pretty penny once I proved myself to the local traders. From there, we headed south to Oli, a hardware store that sometimes has useful tools, building materials, and computer parts. We pilfered the front offices of their hardware, both electronic and military. As we made our way to the Emercom extract behind Oli, our escape was complicated by the red smoke of an airdrop, no doubt being camped by other players. I knew I was being watched, so I made a break for it to the extraction, but alas, it was in vain. Our first shopping trip ended tragically. Milkman and I made it back to Goshen on our second run, set on getting those precious foodstuffs to nurse my PMC back to health. We made haste to the shelves before any other hungry players showed up. And there it was, delicious peas and other delectable sundries. We took what we could, and not wanting to make the same mistake as last time, went to the opposite end of the mall. We found ourselves in front of Idea, an off-brand furniture store that's become nothing more than a haven for thieves. Unwilling to risk our rations, we made our way to the entrance and towards Railway, the other extraction point. Awash with sunlight and beaming with pride, we followed the freeway west to the old rail tunnel. This marked the first victory in my quest. As we approached, we were greeted only with silence. No exfil campers to spoil our celebration and steal our loot. Safely out of the raid, the scav dumped the supplies in my stash. It wasn't much, but it was a start. I'll need more weapons and supplies for my PMC to stand a chance. To mix things up, Milkman and I headed to my next favorite map, Customs. We found ourselves outside Big Red, a dangerous place for a scav to be. As we made our way to the river, we were greeted by stray bullets from the MG nested fortress. We hustled across the makeshift bridge down the road to New Gas Station, the midpoint to our exfil at Warehouse 4. We went inside to scrounge up what we could, but the real prize awaited outside. A dead scav, unlooted and unguarded. Offended by such waste, I made quick work acquiring his gear. From there, we continued down the road toward the checkpoint, past the wall and into Blue-Green, a repair building in the warehouse complex with some odds and ends to snag. We made our way to the recording room to see what random loot we could grab before we made it to the map's exit. Filled up on supplies, we ran to Warehouse 4 on the opposite side of the complex. It was an uneventful run, but a safe and successful one. This run made up for the tragedy at Interchange with multiple rifles, extra ammo and armor, and other useful items. Ready to go again, I made my way back to Customs on my own. I deployed again on the other side of Big Red, but was surprised at what I spawned in with, a red signal flare used to call in an airdrop. Though certainly a blessing, I felt that having such a boon would make my challenge a little too easy. Just my luck, I found a friendly scav who I could pass on this gift. In exchange, he gave me a key to a restaurant director's office, which, admittedly, I don't know the value of. Thank you. Our transaction complete, we wished each other luck. While I survived, I didn't get much extra gear aside from my rifle, its ammo, and that shiny new key. Safely out of Customs, a new adventure awaited further afield. Or perhaps, more accurately, the site where the chaos of Tarkov began so long ago. And so, that brings us to the newest map, Ground Zero. Though it's been years since the outbreak of the contract war, Ground Zero remained as tense and dangerous as ever. Though it's still rich with valuable loot for beginners like high-quality weapons, armor, and medical supplies, it's a veritable hunting ground for PMCs to ambush unsuspecting scavs. Once I had my fill, I made my way to the Emercom aid station to extract. However, it was not meant to be. I was easy prey for a PMC in the distance. I was trapped like a rat, bleeding out so close to the exfil. But I died there, under a hail of bullets. My second attempt wasn't fruitful either. Exchanges of gunfire rang out in the distance as I tried to find whatever loot I could. However, this run would be cut short, as I was killed looting a car. After 3 wins and 3 losses, I grew nervous that my PMC would struggle to complete his first quests unprepared and poorly armed. And so, I went back to a place most familiar. Scav runs 7 and 8 were uneventful, but I survived both. My winning strategy was to loop through the mall, leave Idea through the front, then head west to the railway exit. Both runs rewarded me with backpacks, a few pistols, rifles, supplies, and a handful of money. Run number 9 went about the same until I started making my way to Railway. I wanted to check some military terms for weapons crates, but I wasn't the only one. As a scav, you usually don't want to attack other scavs minding their business. It appears that I startled them with the scary mask I picked up earlier.
Are you a scav?
Yes. Please do not shoot.
I'm so fucking sorry.
After many exchanges of apologies and shared medkits, I made it safely to the exit, no worse for wear. Another successful run for the books. My final scav raid was effectively a milk run, and by milk, I mean more guns and gear for the pile. Exhausted, I was happy to have finished the first part of this new challenge. Though the hard part was over, I began the painstaking task of organizing my stash. To conserve space, I kept all of my loot in the original backpacks and rigs. As someone who loves a clean inventory, I began dumping things out and bringing order to chaos. While the guns you spawn with as a scav are worn out and prone to jamming, I was happy I found a few brand new guns in various crates. I also found a good selection of ammo, a few grenades, and assorted weapon mods to supplement those guns. Because I couldn't buy or sell anything with the traders yet, I still had to be careful with my ammo. For now, I could only find more in raid. I was happy to find a good selection of food and water. Your PMC has hunger and thirst to manage, and even once I have access to traders, they don't have many options. Instead, you're better off finding food and drink or crafting it in your hideout. When I was able, I allowed myself to pick up trade goods, items that you can use to craft, upgrade your hideout, barter, or simply sell for a good bit of cash. Most of it might not be useful now, but it will be soon. Finally, I had plenty of chest rigs for ammo and consumables, and a few helmets and armored vests to keep me safe in the field. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. As someone who was immediately bored with his default starter stash, this random horde of mismatched weapons and gear was just what I needed to start this challenge. After meticulous sorting, I gazed upon my inventory, excited at the potential for better gear, better weapons, and more money to buy better gear and better weapons. At this point, I only had 96,000 rubles and 41 euros, a pittance that won't last long. Before I went to introduce myself to the traders, I stopped by the hideout to see what I could build. There were only two things: some candles to light up the bunker, and better ventilation because oxygen is good. The candles didn't do much to stave off the shadows, but the cool breeze of fresh air and the warmth of candlelight were small pleasures in my new home. Satisfied, I went to introduce myself to the traders and grab my first quests. Proper needed me to locate 2 emplacements in Ground Zero and kill 5 people, either PMCs or scavs. Therapists wanted me to locate the Emercom aid station and find 3 consumable med items in raid. Skier needed me to take a special vehicle extract that cost 5,000 rubles, an amount he fronted me as a favor. The last quest was mechanics, and it was the biggest one. I had to track down a hard drive locked in a lab in the TerraGroup building, the very same building where my squad and I were ambushed. Rested and ready, I headed out to Ground Zero.